Hi, friends. Well, currently it's just me, but I'm going to talk anyways. Tonight I will be chatting with Brandi. She's going to be joining me shortly, and we're going to be talking about what it was like for her to get the flu during COVID 19 and getting tested for that. And then we're just going to talk about life because I think we're all sick of the topic COVID. So I'm going to welcome her in. Waiting on that. Hopefully the gram works. Hi,
Hey,
how are you?
I'm good. I'm like, can you hear me? Make sure my setup's all good.
I can hear you.
Perfect. I,
So,
how's
you're
it?
where? Vancouver?
I'm in Vancouver. I am. Today's really nice out. I should that's why I'm like, I've been hibernating in my backyard today because I'm just like, I don't want to leave. But yeah, a lot of people are out, which is kind of like, meh, but I've been keeping my distance and me and my chunky monkey are just hanging out in the yard. Hey, chicken nugget. And
Nice. So,
yeah.
what happened, Brandy? You literally posted that your work closed because somebody in
Oh
the
yeah.
had COVID. And so you guys all kind of got kicked out of the office. You go home, and then the next day you're like deathly ill.
No, okay, so my office wasn't closed yet. So what ended up happening was I was, I don't know, it was a Wednesday night. I was like, oh, I got a bit of a cough or whatever. I was fine. And then the next morning I woke up and I was like, because I work for a conference company.
Right.
So half of our company is actual face-to-face logistics, housing registration with people, and we do conferences all around the world. I work more on the online side, so not
Right.
too worried about it. But for our work to take initiative, they're just saying, okay, listen, if you're feeling sick whatsoever from any travel, just stay at home. And so, due to the sensitivity of everything that was going on, and because I wasn't feeling well that day, I was like, hey, listen, guys, I'm going to work at home. I'm just going to run to the office, go pick up my laptop, and leave.
Right.
And my boss was like, nope, you're going to stay outside and I'm going to bring your laptop to you. And I was like, oh, okay, all right, all right. So he did. I went to the clinic that morning. Um, and the gentleman, like, I was dying. Like, I never get sick, but like, I was crying just at every moment. Like, it was not me at all. And when I went to the clinic, I said to him, you know, what's the criteria in order to get tested for this? Because, I mean, I have a fever. I'm sick, everything like that. And he's like, well, right now, due to the material that we have, we don't have a lot of supplies. So if you haven't been traveling within the 14 days and you haven't had somebody that you've been with that's been tested positive, then you don't qualify. And I was like, well, that's kind of weird because it's happening everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And if I have a fever, just to be better safe than sorry, why can't we, right? And he was like, nope, just take Advil and go take Buckley's. And I was like, all right then. And next morning, I was so sick, and I was like, no, I gotta go to the hospital. I gotta go to somewhere. But because everywhere was so locked down, you had to call prior to you coming in to make sure the facilities were testing. So I called back my clinic. I said, listen, I need to get tested. So where can I go? So I went to an urgent care center here, um, and it was a long wait. Long story short, about 3 hours just to get intake to sit down. So you had to take a number, wait outside. So I'd waited outside, and mind you, like I had my beanie on, I had my hood on, I was crying my eyes out. I was so sick, and they had a nurse come out later on just to kind of because it was so packed, and I understand the cautious and people wanting to get tested right away because it's a very scary thing, right? But at that time, they were just, if you don't show any symptoms, we're not doing it. So then half of the waiting room had kind of, left. And then when I finally got into intake, even the gentleman that was doing the intake, he's like, I don't think you're going to get tested. And with my personality and my mentality, I'm like, okay, try and tell me it's not going to happen. When I get in that room, I'm going to tell the doctor otherwise, right? So I'm just like, okay, fine, don't test me. Um, but it was the weirdest thing that I'm still sort of taking in because I've never felt this in my life was as soon as he took my temperature, honestly, it was like in a snap, 2 minutes. As soon as he took my temperature, he looked at me. There was two nurses behind me, and they're like, "You need to get her in a room ASAP." And I was like, "Okay, what's going on?" And they weren't even really talking to me; they were talking to each other. I was like, "Okay, wow, this is great." And I had to go around the corner because my mom was with me, and she was in the corner. I was like, "Mom, let's go." And she's like, what's going on? Like, are you okay? And I'm like, no, they got to put me in a room right away. And as soon as I said that out loud, and I tried to keep it under wraps, I think the first row of chairs literally stood up and like backed up. And I
Okay.
have never felt that in my life, to see a waiting room just look at me and be like, holy fuck, I think she's dying. Like, because I was bawling my eyes out because I was just so sick. And yeah, that was really weird. And like, because the rooms are changing so fast, my door said dirty on it, like a red sign that said dirty. So it was just like, I was tagged as like, and then I had a red tag on my wrist saying like, okay, this is what's going on. So it was like, this was at 11:30 in the morning. As soon as the doctor came in, the staff, though, I'd have to say, were absolutely brilliant. They never for a second made me feel uneasy. They were so professional. They were so nice, diplomatic, tactful. They were awesome. The staff there, like, if I could get him as an everyday doctor, I would. He's brilliant. But yeah, I was just, okay, let's check your chest. Oh, we might think you have a chest infection. Let's get an x-ray. And like, it all happened so quickly. And then all of a sudden, after everything happened, I have an IV connected to me, and I'm just lying there waiting.
Wow.
So I showed up at 9:30 in the morning, and then I didn't leave there until 5 p.m.
So what was the test? Like, what do they do to test you to see if you have?
Yeah, so, oh my gosh, I am not scared of needles, nothing like that, but that test is painful. So it's a long, it looks like a miniature Q-tip. It's quite long though. Like it's long. I want to say like a little bit longer than a normal pen or something like that. And the tip of it is quite thin, and they stick it right up your nose. And I could still feel it now. Like I'm thinking about it. It feels like it's jabbing your brain.
Wow.
Like I don't know how else to say that. He's like, yeah, breathe quick, like breathe in. I'm like, oh okay, oh okay, yeah, yeah, you're tickling my brain about right now.
Wow.
And yeah, it's painful. Like I I think even though it was that painful and I was completely out of it, I couldn't even imagine if I wasn't sick. Like I would not want to get that test at all. Like
Really.
ugh, ugh.
And then,
But
how long did it take, Brandi, for them to tell you that you were
oh
negative?
yeah, that was awful too. So they were saying after like you have to call 811 to get your results. Come on, Muggle. There wasn't enough staff. So all in all, it took about 3 weeks to get my results, which was kind of scary because if you've been tested with it, then you have to follow it as if you
You
had
have.
gotten it.
Right.
So I was very fortunate. My boss had brought me groceries the first week. Another colleague had brought me groceries the second week. But it was really interesting just to be like, no, you actually can't go outside. So at that
Yeah.
time, I was very fortunate to have a backyard to be like, okay, well, I can't take my dog for a walk. So thank God I have the luxury of having a backyard. Because even then, dog walkers, every worker can't work or come near you. So it was a very interesting, it's really interesting to see how many outlets you actually have for support that sometimes you can't use even if you need it during this situation, right? So yeah, so then after 3 weeks of me like calling almost every day, is this going on? And mind you, I was still somewhat working at the time too, because like work for me is online. So I was just like, okay, what's going on? And then the office was kind of waiting to hear back to see like, okay, does she have it? If not, then we might have to put a statement out for everybody to know. But thank goodness, knock on all this wood here, it was just the flu.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, and I got two calls. So I got one call from the hospital and then another call from 811 giving me my results. So I felt better with like the triple check of calls saying it was negative. But even then, afterwards, like even now, I haven't really left my house just because I'm like, it's traumatizing. I was like, I don't want to be the cause of someone to get sick. I think
Yeah.
that would like burn my soul and my heart so much because I would just feel like an asshole. Like I feel like I wouldn't be a responsible person. Like some people are out there like sick and all, and they're like, I don't believe in it. I'm like, hey, I believe in karma. I'm not about that life. I'm gonna stay put where I am,
That,
order groceries, and call it a day.
that's crazy, Brandi. I mean, like, I can't imagine getting sick right now to that extent. I think that the anxiety alone would, make everything that much worse.
Yeah.
Uh, but I have to ask, aside from all that, now that you're better, now that it was a negative test result, I mean,
Yeah.
because I haven't spoken to you in years,
I
so
know, it's been so long.
it's crazy. Like, what took you to Vancouver?
A new life, really, new beginning, everything. Like the years of work that I've done, like Ottawa's just a trigger for me, and I didn't realize how unhappy I was there until I left. And it
Okay.
really, I've never had a space to call home. I've never had a space. I've lived in places, obviously, growing up and stuff, but it never felt like home. And when I came here in 2015, it was in 24 hours. I was sitting at English Bay. It's a beautiful beach that we have here. I was sitting on a log, and I remember, like, I just sat here. I was looking out to the water, and I was like, I need to move here, and that was it. And I was good about that. They'll call at the time. At that time, I was on a break with my ex-partner, and when I came back to Ottawa, I was like, "Listen, I'm going with or without you. You need to figure it out."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Okay." We came, and yeah, he ended up coming with me. But it was a new life. I mean, doing hair, and obviously that's how we know each other and working together, doing hair for so long. But I wasn't happy doing it anymore.
Okay.
Even though it's like, yeah, I love the vanity, the makeup, the hair, and everything. But I think looking at yourself in the mirror sometimes for 12 hours a day, and depending on who your clientele is, if you really have individuals, like the ones that you create the bond with, it's a beautiful thing. I think that's why I did it for as long as I did, because I was really working with people. I was able to share stories. It's a beautiful connection. Like, it's like no other.
It is.
And a lot of people underestimate it. And now that I'm being out of it, that's the one thing I miss the most, that I'm trying to find in each kind of career that I've been out here is, yeah, okay, great. I can work for all these different companies out here. I've worked for banking. I've worked for automotive now. I've worked for hotels. Now I'm on online. I'm in tech companies. Like, I feel like I've kind of filtered through it all, and it's kind of like, what the hell are you doing, Brandi? What's going on? But the one thing I always miss is, or what I bring, is that connection with people. And
Right.
I feel like a lot, it's a hard skill sometimes, I
I think
feel.
people underestimate how difficult that aspect of our job is because you're not just selling your skills.
No,
You're selling a piece of yourself to each one of your clients, right? You have to
absolutely.
put yourself in a position where you can relate to them on some sort of a level to
Yeah,
make that connection with them. And
yeah.
I think clearly by me doing this every night, that is the biggest thing for me that I miss, right?
Yeah.
But
It's being able to be vulnerable. And I mean, the saying is true. Like, once you get to know your clients, when they sit in your chair, you're their counselor half the time.
yeah,
You know, and you know the deepest and darkest secrets, and it's something you never take advantage of, nor did I ever. I felt blessed and grateful that you trusted me with that information.
it's so
Like,
true.
that's a, yeah, right? And that's the most beautiful thing about it, is you're just so raw, you're authentic, you get to have real conversations. And yeah, when that's taken away, it's like you feel a little bit lost.
It's so true. And I think like the side of our industry that nobody talks about, a lot of hairstylists don't talk about, is the mirror complex. I mean, I it took me a long time to realize standing in front of a mirror for 12 hours a day was going to break me down on a level that I never realized I could be broken
Oh,
for.
yeah,
It is
right?
tormenting. It is
Yeah.
tormenting sometimes. And I don't know if you ever felt this way, but I would sometimes feel, if I didn't feel beautiful, I physically couldn't make anybody else look or feel beautiful because I couldn't do it. It's like it's this
Yeah.
energy that you have to just have when you stand behind the chair, and it can be really difficult sometimes. It really can
You're
be.
on. Yeah, you're on.
Yeah.
You know, and especially in the environment that we worked in, it's like, okay, well, if your hair and your makeup's not done and you're not in all black and da 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 da, if you ain't looking like you're going to a club and you're like, you can make stacks of money, it's like, oh my God, I don't care to glue on eyelashes one more time.
Yeah.
I don't fucking care. I
Yeah.
just want to talk to people and do what I do best, right? But yeah, no, the mirror complex is, it's very draining. Like, I'm very comfortable in my skin now. Like, I find the older that I get, the more of my tomboy side comes out. 'Cause I think that was the hardest thing for me when I joined the industry of hair. Like, yes, I know I look really femme. I love makeup. I love lipstick. I'm a lipstick junkie. But for me, it's like, I love baggy tees, my sneakers. Like, my tomboy comes out. So when it's like you're being forced to be wearing a dress, which I hate with all of passion. It's really,
Yeah,
really interesting, right?
it is.
Um, yeah, and it's an industry, um, especially for women on dailies anyway, just as women, like women can be very catty, we know that.
Yeah,
We are our worst enemies. We can be very empowering to each other, or it's the opposite side of the spectrum where we break each other down and it's like, man, but why do we do that?
yeah,
Why? But that's one, like, yeah, the salon I don't miss. I go, nope, nope, can't take me back. But what I do miss is the creativity part of it.
yeah,
Um, and yeah, be able to have fun and do what you do.
yeah.
That's for
I
sure.
agree. It's an art, right? And with any
Yeah,
art comes that longing to create again. Any artist
yeah,
will always want to create, and I think that again, you have to be in a specific headspace in order to create properly,
yeah.
and that is why like it is hard in a salon.
Do
It is
you
hard.
do you find it, because now I know you do it in your home, right?
Yeah.
You do it at home. Amazing, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's awesome. Um, so speaking of, do you find it? I only say that because now I'm like full time working at home. I had the option like
Right.
some days I could, some days I don't. Do you find sometimes being at home all the time with your work as well troublesome?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Especially because I have kids.
I was
Um,
gonna say your babies are running. So
uh,
mommy mode all the time,
yeah.
superwoman, and then yeah,
I used to have a really hard time. A lot of women would say to me, "Oh, you're so lucky you get to work from home with the kids," and I would try to explain. And I feel like now maybe a lot of people who are working from home understand it a little bit, but I went through a really bad depression after I had my daughter. Very bad.
yeah,
And being home and then working from home, I never exactly had a reason to leave the house. So
yeah.
when it came time for me to have to leave the house, it was daunting and it was difficult and I was
Anxiety.
almost yeah, it was it
I
was
feel like I'm gonna have the same.
it was really honestly and
Yeah.
I had to relearn how to open the front door, be
Mm,
outside, be in a space, a crowded space of people, do things like go to groceries. You know, I
yeah.
had to relearn a lot of things
Yeah.
because of always being home. And some people may understand that and some people won't. Coming out of isolation, I think more people will.
Hmm.
But I've done it once and I know that
Yeah.
I can do it. So
Yeah.
the hardest thing for me with working from home with the kids was just that it was like the never ending mat leave. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? There's no future. It's just this is what it is kind of thing. And I couldn't see how I would grow past that. So I needed
Mm,
to find other outlets, and that's when I did the Muay Thai and I started getting into
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Um,
Which is awesome.
Thank you. And I see you're kind of doing it. Well, you were doing it too before all this.
Yeah. And then all of this, and I'm like, all right, we'll just pound some donuts instead.
Yeah, I feel you. Honestly, I was hoping to fight again in May, and now I'm just hoping to fit into my biggest pair of tights. That's the goal right now.
Right? I'm like, oh yeah, no, baggy tees for life. I'm like, really don't know how big I'm getting though.
I don't. I mean, it's crazy. So you're there now. You're not doing hair. I
Mhm.
did, Brandy. I've been following you for a while now, and
Oh,
I
thanks.
saw a post a little while back about you talking about your dad.
Yeah.
Um,
So, yeah, what would you like to know? Or do you want me to
so
break down the
it was that he had passed.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, I'm
So,
very sorry for that.
thank you. Yeah, my dad passed a year, it'll be 2 years this October coming up. But our relationship was quite different. And the reason I'm okay talking about it now is because he actually, I feel him more around me than I ever had in my life. And it's a very interesting, it's a very, it's something that you can't explain. And I feel like when we endure a loss, everybody goes through it differently. And
Right.
you're gonna go through, different motions of it. You're gonna feel something. So what I'm experiencing right now, just with, feeling really confident in my skin. So with my parents divorced when I was 2. My dad wasn't around my whole life. We always fought. He was an alcoholic. He was just a shit dad. Like there's no other way to put it. And that's not me talking ill of him because he's passed away or anything. So the what I realized, like as I was reflecting, I was like, anytime I was dating a guy, it would never work. And I was
Right.
like, okay, you can only blame the other person for so long And so you have to look at yourself in the mirror and be like, okay, listen, did this not work because of them? Or did it not work because I was maybe secretly sabotaging it and I didn't know?
Right.
So when I dug deeper and I realized, I was like, okay, no relationship really worked with a man because I always feared that they would leave me because my dad did. So I was like, oh my God, okay, I got to look into this. And as I got older, so before he passed, and it was just a weird time. I was coming back to Ottawa anyways. And I told myself I was ready. He had reached out for years. I want to talk to you. I ignored him. Like I didn't talk to him. Anytime he reached out, I just ignored him. I wasn't ready. I was just too hurt. I was upset. And the last time I spoke to him, we sat down and I was like, you know what? Let's be an open book. So I laid everything out. I was like, you know what? You were a fucking asshole. You were a shitty dad. You were never there for me. I needed you the most, everything. And I just laid out my whole heart to him. Everything that I wanted to say. Because I'm the type of person, like, I don't care who you are, what you make, or if we're blood. If you cross me in the wrong way, I'm going to tell you how it is because you'll always know where you stand with me.
Right.
And so I did that with him, and it felt so good. And we finally told each other we loved each other because we hadn't in years. So it was a good powwow. It was back. And so, unfortunately, so we were like, okay, when you get back to Vancouver, let's FaceTime every weekend. I want to tell you why I was never there for you in your life. And I was like, great. I can't wait to hear those conversations. That'll give me closure to hopefully that I'll be open to have a relationship because I want a man. I want to have kids. Like, what's up? And unfortunately, the day that we were supposed to FaceTime is the day that he passed. And so the background with my dad's been sick for 20 years. Like, he literally looks like Frankenstein. It's really bad to say, but the amount of scars he has on his body just from like, he had diabetes, he had stuff with his kidneys, he was getting dialysis 3 times a week. My dad was only about 90 pounds. Wow. So, yeah, he was really sick. And, yeah, so that day when he passed, for me, it was like he finally had that conversation with me, and he went in a coma, thank goodness. Like, it wasn't painful. But I felt like, you know, he finally had closure with me, so he was ready to let go. Because if you've been fighting for 20 years that sick, there's got to be something. Like, I don't know. So that's what gave me closure, but I was so happy to have that conversation. And so since losing a parent is something you can't explain. And, I don't wish that pain on anybody. Unfortunately, it is the circle of life. My dad was young, though. He was only 58, super young. I'm only 31. So it's kind of one of those weird, like, when I go to get married, it isn't going to be my dad walking me down the aisle. It's probably going to be my dog, like certain things. And when he passed, the amount of rage I felt, but the amount of all this shit that I thought was big, I just let it go. Because I was like, okay, life is way too short. Tomorrow's not promised. Brandi, you got to really figure out what your wants and your needs are, who you need in your circle, who's going to uplift you. And it's really interesting when you go through those times of loss, some people that you think that are there for you, man, it's a very interesting kind of a feel. But yeah, he fuels me now. That's why, like, I was always a warm and fuzzy person, super emotional. Now I'm like 10 times. Like, so if I love you, I'm like calling you every day. Man, I love you. There isn't a minute where I'm like, I won't say I love you. There isn't a minute I won't say I don't care about you. Or if I'm pissed off about something, I'll always be like, listen, I don't really like how you did that there. So communication has always been important. But the way now that I approach people is so much different because you never know what anybody's going through.
It's so true. It's so true.
You
And
know?
I feel like a lot of us, it takes a situation to happen in our lives before we make that realization.
Absolutely.
And I even noticed that for myself, until I went through sort of the things that I went through, I developed an understanding for people who have gone through that. But, before you acknowledge it, you can't really aid anybody else.
No. And the thing is, though, too, like, because I work for an online company for lactation consultants and midwives.
Right.
And what I've learned as a woman myself, man, motherhood is not easy. And, people always put that on people like, oh, you're a woman, you'll get it. It's like, do you actually know the statistics of how high postpartum is? You know what I mean? So when you speak about, like, I've had this and this, like, the stuff I learn about on the daily that people don't even know, and us as women, we don't know because we haven't gone through it yet.
Yeah.
And then also like all the sleepless nights that you have when you're pregnant and you have a baby, and then you have someone looking at you and you're like, they're looking at you like, hi, you need to do everything, and you're like, you just stole 9 months of my life. You know what I mean? It's a weird, it's a, not in a negative connotation, but people experience it a lot different. So I find like, kudos to like working at home with the kids and everything like that. Like, yeah, okay, yeah, you're at home with your family. Everybody thinks that dynamic, family, 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 but they never really want to talk about, well, the other side of it.
Well, it's
Because being a
fortunate.
parent, you lose yourself too, right?
You do. You do. And
Yeah.
I think that a lot of people don't understand postpartum depression, postpartum psychosis, postpartum anxiety. All of those things
Yeah.
are, they're chemical, like it doesn't happen necessarily to everybody, but I do think to a certain degree, every woman experiences some form of it, some more severe than others. I
Yeah.
know, like I said, I had a bit of a postpartum depression after my daughter. I didn't recognize it at the time. Now
Yeah.
looking back, I can see it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until I had my son. And, with these issues, they progressively get worse after each child, right?
Yeah.
So I have, I know girls who have 3, 4, 5 kids and only now are starting to realize, like, oh my God, I have really bad anxiety, or oh my God, and
Yeah.
it could have always been there, but with time, age, and more people discussing it, they're realizing, oh, this is likely what's going on right now,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think it's important to talk about a lot of things. I know you do that often, and it just raises awareness for people.
Yeah, for sure, right? Like we're all human.
Yeah, exactly.
We all have, like I always say, it's not, you don't have two sides, but you know what? We all have a representative, I say. Your
Yeah.
representative goes to work.
Yes.
And then there's you at home. And for me, it's like I'm on the journey where, like, yes, I have a representative for work. If you need me to be super professional, by all means, throw me in coach. Like, but other than that, on my time off, like, I just want to be me. But it's kind of figuring out, like, how can my journey for myself is how can I blend the two together so that I don't have to feel like I'm truly not myself and not my own skin in a professional kind of a way. So that's why I've been trying to figure out, okay, what industry do I want to work in? Where do I work well?
Where do I
And
fit?
yeah, and it's still always a battle, right? Because you're just trying to figure it out. And at the end of the day, we all are. And it's okay to be a work in progress, to like, no one's perfect.
No, I
You're
agree.
never going to have all your shit together. And when someone says, I have everything, I'm like, I don't even want to see your closet. I'm so scared what you have put under your rug because I'm like, yeah, I don't believe that for 2 seconds that you got all your shit together. That's
It's so
bullshit.
true. It, it's funny too because like we think like we overthink a lot, right? So if I'm gonna do something, even just with doing these lives, at first I was like, oh man, like I'm doing it off an iPad. I have shitty lighting. I don't have a proper setup. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna do it because if I'm gonna
Yeah,
overthink it, I'm never gonna do it.
yeah.
Um, And that's the problem with a lot of us is that we spend so much time concentrating on how am I going to that we never
Mm,
actually allow ourselves to do things. And
the
just from what
execution.
you've done, like you've gone
Yeah.
to so many different industries and careers, and you've been, I'm assuming, very well off in all of them, but it just wasn't the fit for you personally, right? So,
What I learned was, like, for me is I will never do something that doesn't make me happy.
right.
Spark joy, if you will. That new term, spark joy. If it does not spark joy for me, it is not worth my time. And that's not being entitled, because at the end of the day, if you're not happy yourself, you can't make others happy. And
Yeah,
then how do you expect anything else in your life to go the way that you want it to?
true.
So, you know what? I would rather be without for a very long time to know that that buildup is going to get me to exactly where I need to be, than opposed to bitch, whine, and complain about something I hate every day. It's toxic. It's abusive. I've been in those relationships before. I just don't want it anymore. So
Yeah.
I was just like, if that means I got to be solo, thank God for my dog keeping me along. I would probably lose my shit if I didn't have her as my companion. But other than that, like, you just have to always continue to push yourself. And knowing what your boundaries are. Boundaries are so, so important. And understanding what your wants and needs are. And if it's something that might push you to the point where you're like, nah, this isn't really for me, then opposed to like fight or flight mode, because that's usually what we do, fight or flight,
Yeah.
really look into yourself and be like, okay, when I get that way, to me, it makes me curious because I'm like, oh, why is that triggering me?
Yeah.
And then if it's like, oh, okay, all right, that's stuff you did in your past you're not too proud about, okay, Let's go.
It's crazy. It really is, and I think it takes a lot of self-understanding, um, and it's something that not a lot of people want to do, and I think it's because they're afraid of what they'll find. They're afraid of what they've suppressed for a long time.
It's scary.
Yeah, it
It,
is.
it and there's no sugarcoating it. Like when I have, people reach out to me, they're like, "Yo, I'm not sure of this." And my first thing it's crazy. Whatever has happened to you in your childhood will always come out when you were an adult.
Yeah,
Whether you know it or not, the way you were parented, the way you maneuvered, things that you did to yourself when you were younger, the way you shifted, all those patterns, they're in there for a reason. And then when you start to get older or more mature, and you're like, "Oh, I'm not going to do that anymore." You're like, "Oh, okay, cool." But it's okay. I call them relapses, even though like whatever alcoholic, drug user, whatever you are, I'm not any of those. But I always say like when I go back to the old Brandi
yeah,
and shifting the way it is, I'm like, "Oh, I just relapsed again." But you're human. So as long as you know that you did it and you're like, "Okay, I'm not going to do it again," that's the whole point. You're going to keep moving. But you can't beat yourself up if you go back to old ways sometimes because, man, you're just human.
you're human, and it's what's embedded in you. Like you said, it's all you know, really.
Yeah, yeah, that's
So,
for sure.
Brittany, you're there now. You're working for the company you're working for. You're enjoying it. I'm assuming as of now.
Yeah, all is
What do you
going
do
well.
for your own
So,
creative outlet?
this would probably be one of it. So, I tried, like, for the longest time, I was like, okay, I want to do, more outreach, like a podcast and stuff like that, just to talk about experiences. Because for me, I've noticed that I am an oversharer. That's one thing I'll definitely put. I'm an oversharer. And what I've realized is sometimes it makes people really uncomfortable,
Yeah.
or some people are really intrigued. And then you have some people who are in the middle. And some of the stuff that I have posted that was been very, very deep to me, I'll get random messages that'll be like, "You know what? I've been through the same thing. I never thought that somebody else went through it. But to see that you're doing this and you're going well, like that's really inspiring." And I was like, so like stopped in my track and so humbled and grateful that they even shared that information with me firstly. But to know like if I can impact one person or just make them feel better, especially women,
Yeah.
yes, I'm all for everything, but going on the journey that I had, um, for women especially, because I don't blame social, like we can have that conversation, oh, social media. At the end of the day, like I can look at boobs and all the fake stuff all day. I know it's fake and I'm not worried about myself self-consciously, but I feel like now it's so accessible that a lot of the things that are out there fake, people believe it's real.
Yeah.
And you need to have those things in order for someone to fall in love with you, which
I don't know if
blows my mind.
I don't know that people believe that it's real. I think it's just become a reality. It's become real. It's become the new standard for normal, unfortunately. And it's just, I had a client once, beautiful, beautiful girl, and she's very natural, never done anything, close to 40. And she said to me, "I'm single." And, it's very difficult to meet a man as is right now. But to meet a man in this state, not natural, having aged, being the age that I am, when there's all these young girls that are like Barbie dolls.
Yeah.
It's hard. And I was like, I get that. I get the added pressure and temptation that people feel because it's around them. Like you said, it's social media. But I think what's important too is that and I talk about this a lot, you censor your views. You don't have to look that way or look at those things. It's not everybody, it's just everyone you're choosing to see right now.
Yeah, I don't like when I look back now, I'm like, "Oh man, hey, kudos, she looks great.
Yeah,
Holy, she looks bomb. She looks great." Does nothing for me though.
yeah,
And like I would rather be in my own skin because just for my own self. Like and that's the whole thing. And I feel like once you protrude that, that's who's gonna really, you know what I mean? That's the way, and at least that's what I taught because I'm single. But I would never, right now in my head, like I'm happy to be by myself with my dog. And
yeah.
I tell men straight, like, listen, this is what I am. If you don't like it, I don't really care. I don't need you. I would like you, but I'm not at that point, right?
So Brandy, now that you're single, you're isolating, what are your thoughts on what's going to happen to dating after this? Like, what will happen to the
I was joking with my girl. I was like, oh my God, all of us who have ever had a one night stand, that's going right out the window. Like, it's gonna be one of those. I was like, you know what? People will maybe start courting properly. They might wait the 4 weeks to
Right.
maybe do something. You know what? Maybe it might just be an elbow on the first day he walks me to my door. It won't be a kiss. Like, I don't know. I'm my humor and like I'm just way out there. So I joke about it. But honestly, like dating is already
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
But like dating now, I'm like, oh man, just throw it in the towel. I might as well just find a baby daddy and be done with it. No, I'm joking. But like it's gonna be harder. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it'll be, I don't know, there could be pros and cons. The way I look at it is, yes, it's going to be a little bit harder, but I think it'll be, on the positive note, it'll help people connect a little bit more because you're going to be asking more questions because you can't be
Right.
so physical.
Right.
It's so easy to be, sexually attracted to someone and be like, oh yeah, he looks good, and blah, blah, blah. And then like both of your minds go there. Whereas this time it's like, actually, wait, have you been sick in the last 6 months? What's going on? What's this? I'm gonna meet you there. You can't pick me up. I don't want you in my head. Like, there might be on the joking side of it, but dating wise, I mean, I wouldn't have an answer for it because I mean I'm single. It's not like here I can give any advice on like dating because well, I'm very I'm too much for many. I'm too intimidating. I so
Too much woman.
too much woman. So I told myself, I was like, listen, I need to date 40 and older. Hopefully that will save some of the maturity. But even then, I'm like, nah, I don't know about that one. So we'll to be continued.
Oh man. So do you think that, like, what are your thoughts on COVID? Let's bring it back to that for quick.
What are my thoughts on it?
Yeah.
My heart breaks every day. It's a it's very sad. I don't, to be honest, I'm in my own bubble. I don't like to watch the news. But I do always see the numbers. But also with my job, I talk to a lot of people internationally. So I
Right.
speak with speakers all around the world. You name it, I talk to them. I do interviews with them every day. So to see how it's impacted every different side in every different country in the world, it's to the point where it's like this is real, I
Yeah.
think. And life isn't going to be the same. And it's a huge loss. And like as I was saying the other day, through loss, you're going to go through different sort of things. And right now, people aren't themselves.
No, I
You
agree.
just have to remind yourself that that's not because of you. There's a bigger thing and an issue going on in the world. And it's a very touch and go. Some people think it's nothing, whatever, this is stupid. And then you have other people that are actually losing their significant others, family members to it, right? So it's like everybody's going to have a different outlook. Mine is, it's just a very weird time,
It
you
is.
know? I don't know how to explain it. Does it feel good? No. It's shitty. Like there's no, you can't sugarcoat that. It's shitty. It's awful. It's traumatizing. The amount of mental health, like we already had, mental health was small before, or wasn't small. It wasn't talked about much before, and now it's being, brought to light. But now, like the amount of PTSD that, some people will, anxiety, all of it's going to happen, and it's going to be really, we're forever changed, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And economically, mentally, emotionally, physically, everything. So I don't know how it's going to pan out.
It's
But
great.
my heart goes to everybody. I hope everyone stays safe, and like it's just a really weird time. But I'm so blessed for having these conversations and being able to stay connected. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, we're so far away, but yet we can have these great moments where it's like, okay, it's a long distance hug, right? And that's what I think everybody needs right now.
I agree. I
Yeah.
agree. Do you have any plans of coming back, Brandy, after all this, or you think you're staying there for good?
Oh, I'm stuck here. I shouldn't say stuck here because it's home. This is home for me. I'll never move back to Ottawa. Not because I'll come back. Like I was actually planning to come back in July. Thank God I didn't buy my ticket yet because who knows what's going on. I'll come back because my girls are there. But like other than that, I'll never move back. This is my home. I'm happy there's no winter here. It doesn't snow here. The mountains, like I'm good. I'm good.
Well,
Yeah.
now time you do come back, we'll have to get together.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, for sure. We'll have some coffee or tea or donuts, which I'll come or even check out your salon. That'd be cool.
Yeah, for sure. Anytime, my love.
Yeah.
Anytime post-COVID disaster.
Who knows with travels, right? But it's so crazy. Like to fly within Canada is so expensive and just to go anywhere else in the world, like it's such robbery.
It's crazy. It's ridiculous. All
Yeah.
right, my love. I'm going to chat with you soon. You stay safe.
Perfect. You
Okay?
as well. Thank you so much for having me on here.
Thank you for doing this.
Of
So
course. Thank you.
take care, baby.
Okay, bye.
Guys, that was awesome. Tomorrow night there will be no oh shit. I'm taking a day off, and I'll see you guys on Monday where I'll be interviewing Robert Thomas. Take care.